When I was 29, I almost died. And I think that was the wake-up call that I needed to start practicing what I preach and actually looking after myself. At 4 years old, I had life-changing surgery to my heart. The doctors told me I would never be able to exercise. I would never live a normal life. But there's an element of the body's capable of things that aren't within medicine or science. It's capable of healing itself from the inside out. Movement is my tool. It's my dopamine. It's everything. Movement at the end of the day healed me. Like, without me shoving two fingers up at the doctors and starting to do dance A-level, I'd be sat in that waiting room in the cardiac ward, fall down 7, get up 8. It's using your tools or being able to get back up again, whether it takes you a week or a year to get yourself back up again and to have that growth and power and that strength within you.
Hi Georgie, and welcome to this episode of Unstoppable Women. I'm really excited to have you here today. I know your story is a really, really personal one and a fantastic one. It's all about health and wellness and the story and the journey that you've gone through and how it underpins what you're now building in life. And I know that you've been a fellow runner and done the marathon, I think, as well at one point. And I am now minus 5 weeks from the marathon and I'm slowly getting scared. So I need any help or advice I can get. So I feel like the whole topic of wellness is just fantastic for me at this point right now. But to get us going, you are Georgie Spurling and you are the founder of Arvra. And this is a digital wholeness wellness platform that is bringing accessibility and kind of trying to change the whole shape of what wellness looks like for people. But why don't you get us started to kick us off? And who is Georgie?
My gosh, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation. So I'm Georgie. I am the founder of Arvra. I started my life in a very unhealthy way for someone who's now ironically preaching health and wellness. I didn't start off too well. At 4 years old, I had life-changing surgery to my heart. Long story short, the doctors told me I would never be able to exercise. I would never live a normal life. Life expectancy was different back then. Obviously, medicine keeps changing and evolving, which is great news for me. But yeah, it was scary. My family, I often mention this because I think it pulls on the mental health strings a little bit. My dad is an ex-professional golfer. My grandma is junior Wimbledon. So you can imagine how sporty my family are. And I was sat on the sidelines my whole childhood, not being able to participate, which led to a very dark place as a teenager. I then got to age 17. Sorry, I'm skipping through it, but you stop me when you need to.
Let's pause for a second then. So this goes right back to being 4 years old. And how much do you remember at that time? These are like some of the earliest memories that someone will have. And like, what is your memory of being that age?
It's funny because I often said I don't remember anything. You're 4. Like, it's really difficult to remember anything when you're 4. However, I've had a lot of therapy and my body remembers the trauma for sure. There are certain signs that I still have to this day. Like, I'm quite protective of my chest area. I like the C's when I'm stressed. It sounds funny, but if you've been through trauma therapy, you'll understand what I'm saying. Because I was cut open on my chest. I'm just a bit, it's where I feel stressed and where I feel pain. I have a lot of, I would say, I have had abandonment. I wouldn't call them issues, but thoughts and processes in my head because of being left in hospital. Not my parents' fault. They weren't allowed in the ICU for a long time. And that, I'm a big believer in therapy and I'm a big believer in how childhood situations and events can shape the way that we think as adults. And if people don't see that connection, I'm like, why? Like, you went through this horrendous experience and yes, it may not ruin you, but it will definitely have an impact for the rest of your life. So yeah, I don't have any memories apart from waking up one time. I have a memory of the room that I woke up in. Otherwise, I have no memories of the pain or anything like that.
Yeah. And I really empathize with what you're saying about, I never understood why in therapy they always go back to childhood, right? That if you do therapy long enough, they always take you back to what your childhood was like. But now having a little girl, I kind of get it because in all the studying I've done, those are your formative years. Those are when your default settings occur and you don't question them. When you're older, things happen to you, right, wrong, like, don't like. But when you're a child, you're just a blank sheet and whatever happens to you, it just becomes default default, right? So it shapes who you are to become. How did it shape your life at that time then? Were you still active, mobile, or possibly not, from what you were saying, feeling like you were sitting on the sidelines?
So I had a long recovery when I'd had the surgery, and they put me on some incredibly strong medication. So I'd say my 4th year of being on this earth was very non-active and mostly in hospital. After that, I was a normal child. I just, when I got to school, wasn't allowed to necessarily join in the sports or the fitness and the PE. I wasn't stopped from playing in the garden with my brother and, normal children's things. But obviously, my parents, having been told that, had to be extremely cautious about what I did, where I did it. I had a really great childhood, and that's really funny to say, given I just told you the story of when I was 4 and it was just all turned upside down. But I had a great childhood. I would say nothing was missing from it. It was only when I got to school when, sports lessons where people socialized, where the kids all got together and it was so fun. And then I was witnessing at home how movement positively impacted my whole family so much. Like, they're obsessed with sports. You cannot find a more sporty family than mine and all my cousins. That became the downfall when I started to compare, I think. I never wanted to know. I think part of it was like I buried my head in the sand until the age of 28, genuinely, about what had happened to me. I didn't want to think about it and I didn't want to know. So part of the reason why I didn't feel like I missed out is because I ignored it. I just ignored, which is not, I don't advise that.
But that's so interesting. How were your parents with you then as you were growing up, and in terms of talking to you about it? Or did they talk? It was a topic you just really didn't want to dwell on?
I don't remember having loads of conversations as a child with them. I think they were probably, in fact, most definitely impacted more than I was, which sounds silly, but often when you're watching someone in hospital or be incredibly unwell, it's harder than the person going through it. The only conversations we really had was when I had my appointments, I think. It's difficult to remember. As I said, I've tactically blurred a lot of it out of my mind. And there were conversations, my mum was always fighting against me not being on stuff like warfarin, which she won, which is good. She's a nutritionist and a naturopath, so she was like, my child shouldn't be on this, blah blah blah. She's also northern, so a bit punchy, but yeah, I don't...
My mum is northern.
There you
My
go.
parents are both northern, so I know that style of approach.
Yeah, she was, and the only reasons I think we started, I think they just were guided by me. I didn't want to talk about it. I did not want to acknowledge that even existed until a couple of years ago, when I had a few scary moments in my 20s, in the back of an ambulance moment, but again, didn't want to talk about it. And then when I was 29, I almost died. And I think that was the wake-up call that I needed to start, one, practicing what I preach and actually looking after myself, and 2, started to want to understand why my body works the way it does. Not that it was related, but it just, those moments, just like, okay, I really need to start understanding what has happened.
So take me back to then teenage years, because you said there was, when you were a teenager, was it a difficult time in school? Were you understanding that there was something just a little bit unique about yourself in comparison to others?
Yeah, I think it was deep down really hard, but on the external, no one really knew I was finding it hard, because I am tenacious and everyone in my life will tell you that I'm stubborn. I just wanted to be a normal child, which it is invisible. So you look at me now and you're like, there's nothing wrong with you. So I could pretend very easily that nothing had ever happened apart from the, not being able to do running at school and some sports.
So running was something that was one of the things that you weren't able to do. And I asked this pointedly because I think you have gone on to do some pretty mega running in your time, right?
So this is a highlight to my personality, and I do not condone this to anybody else, by the way. I have to say that every podcast or every conversation. My godfather, when I was in hospital at 4, he ran the marathon for me, the London Marathon. He managed to raise £15,000 for Guy's and St Thomas's, because my parents were sleeping on chairs or on the floor and there were no toys for the kids. It was just 1990, when was it? 1998. So it was a long time ago that I was 4. And the most touching, brilliant thing anyone's ever done for me, like how incredible. And he ran it, and we've got loads of pictures. And I've always had in the back of my head, not that I've ever said it out loud to my parents, they would have killed me, that I will be running it back or walking it back for Peter, my godfather, and the VHF and Guys and Tommies. And so I ran it when I was 28, I think. 28, yeah. And I didn't really train because it's too much load on my heart. I'm not a runner.
Right. Yeah.
I can't. Like, I love running and I understand the benefits. I don't think it's the best. We can get onto this exercise for women as a whole, but there is a place for it. Endorphins, mindset, all of that. But I've never been run in my life because I've not really been allowed to. The blood load in your heart is a lot when you run. And my longest training run was a 10-kilometer run. Yeah, before the marathon. Again, do not condone that.
Yeah. And so for anyone that isn't familiar with the distances, and I'm getting really good at this now, that's about just under a quarter, right, of what you end up doing on a marathon, 26 miles, 42 kilometers. Yeah. So your longest was a quarter. And that's a lot.
And
that's a huge amount.
Yeah, I fought with doctors most of my life, if I'm honest. I need to exercise. I got to age 17 and I put two fingers up and I was like, I need to dance. I'm going to do dance A-level. They're like, what on earth do you think you're doing? But it's just me. And so I had to go. My parents just said the ones that they were like, please don't do it, please don't do it. But the one thing they said is go and ask for cardiologists if it's okay. Yeah. I did. And she was like, well, it's not the wisest idea, Georgie, but you're going to do it anyway. She knows me so well.
Yeah. So how did you do it? So you did a quarter, longest distance. How did you get around the day? Because it's so far. I've done quite a lot of half marathons. Marathon is like, it's kind of blowing my mind at the minute. I'm slightly scared by it. And for you to do that, like, how did you get yourself up to that? And what did the day look like?
So my plan going in, again, this isn't a fitness education backed plan. It's just me personally. I do not recommend this because your muscles start getting cold. Is to walk a mile, run a mile, walk a mile, run a mile. So I was at the start line. That was my plan. And I know I'd run 10 kilometers in one go and I could do it, but I didn't want to burn myself out or something to happen. So my plan was, maybe walk 2, run 2 at start and then go to 1-1-1 splits. Hopefully this will help you. On the day, goes out the window. The crowd just to get you through it. Like something comes over you on that day. Yes, I ran it very slowly, by the way. Like the time is embarrassing, but I did manage to run 38 kilometers of the 44, whatever it is. Yeah, it's just in the middle that I needed to fast walk for a bit because I think my blood sugar was a bit low, and then that impacts your heart. And I was a bit scared, but I managed to run, I'd say 80 to 90% of it. Jog, not run. 2 reasons. One is the crowd and the day and the adrenaline. It just happens. So I always say to clients now, or people, like if they're running the marathon, don't overtrain. It's a waste of your energy. You're prone to injuries. It will exhaust you. Train, obviously, more than I did, but don't overtrain. And number 2, I have been working in fitness for 14 years and I'm a big strength. I do strength training and I do a lot of Pilates. It's like solely put it down to the fact that I am strong anyway. That I managed to run that marathon. My muscles, my core, my glutes, they're all conditioned and strong, not in running, but in, the muscles have strength. So if you're not doing that kind of exercise alongside marathon training, I highly recommend that you do.
Yeah. So the fitness regime that I've got now, I do strength training, speeds, and then there's like some gradual distances, which is quite scary. But as you say, everyone tells me the crowd gets you through. And for me personally, London is such a big thing. I'm like a massive London geek. I've always lived in or near London, and it's just going to be such a big thing to me. So could I ask you a question then? Because you did this in your late 20s, but you also talked about a couple of incidences, health scares, like sounds like quite severe in your 20s. What was going on then and what was the shift? What was your lifestyle like and what kind of brought that change on?
So early 20s, I was in London and I was a PT and I was traveling all around London, all around the world, training high net worths and celebrities and just incredibly different walk of life people. And I would put down that I had 3 or 4 experiences in my young 20s where my oxygen sats are super low and I lost even more oxygen and I had to be rushed to hospital. Right. I put it down to burnout. I know it doesn't really make sense. Like you're all expecting my heart stopped, but it didn't. I genuinely think I was massively burnt out. I was overdoing my own exercise. I was overdoing work. I was incredibly anxious. I still am to this day. I was incredibly anxious as a young 20-year-old in relationships. In particular, I had some tough times in relationships. And I know you'll be able to relate to this, think that amounted to me having this crisis point a couple of times. times where my body physically reacted to stress and burnout. I'm such an advocate for it now. It's partly what Arvra is about, is preventing burnout and stress levels. It's the number one killer.
Do you know what's strange? I think I lived my 20s, up to my 30s when I had my daughter. So I became a mum a bit later in life, 35. It didn't seem late at the time, but apparently it is. And up until that point, I had never struggled with mental health or burnout, and I didn't really even know what it was. And since that time, so only 8 years, I've done a lot of reading and educating myself about it. And it's wild now. I notice the impact that stress can have physically on the body. Like, the link between the two is crazy, because now when I feel acute stress, and I'm so prone to stress and anxiety is like the worst thing that I get, the impact it has physically on me in terms of not being able to eat, not being able to sleep. And then it becomes this vicious cycle of I don't know which one's causing which or how to stop it, because it's all just suddenly knotted up in itself. And I realize now just how much that burnout, it can be different things to different people, but that impact mentally and how it starts to settle in the body and all the things that it can do to us physically and how that compounds is huge. So I think, I don't know if I was lucky it took me until that long, or I'm just realizing these last 8 years such how big an impact that can have on people. And so this is something, as you said, that really forms what you're doing with Arvra now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's almost a silver lining that happened, because I hate glorified hustle culture, because no matter who you are susceptible to burnout and you are susceptible to stress. It doesn't matter how you handle it. It doesn't matter what you do with it or what help you get with it or how rich you are. Like, everyone has their limit. Do you know what I mean? So if you're consistently going and going and going, founder culture, I just can't deal with it on LinkedIn at the moment. Like, I'm up till 3 a.m. No, you're not. Like, you're okay, one night you might be, but if you sustained that through 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to have issues. Like, I'll put my money on it. You will have issues. I don't know. I think for me, it's so much more important, not than everyone else, but because I've got a vulnerability to look after myself. And if I abuse that straight away, like, my health declines. And my health is just the number one thing for me. I've learnt the hard way. And I'm so passionate. The start of Arvra was all about helping other people like me who don't find a lot of things or didn't find a lot of things accessible. And I don't mean just financially accessible. I mean emotionally accessible, and a place that I feel that I'm getting stronger and I'm growing from it, because not a lot of people will understand my condition is incredibly rare, and the sequence of events are not normal for a 32-year-old to have gone through. So finding a place where I can build my own health plan and boost everything and feel my best, I just want to give that to other people. And that's why Arvra started. Movement, at the end of the day, healed me. Like, without me shoving 2 fingers up at the doctors and starting to do dance A-level, I'd be sat in that waiting room in the cardiac ward with everyone else who is super unwell, super unfit. It's no offense, but it's just the reality, because they've been told to not do much. Movement is my tool. It's my dopamine. It's everything. And I know that spans back to being told not to move, and now I use it and abuse it.
Can you explain a little bit to me about what the condition is, just so I can understand the kind of science and the facts around it?
Yeah, I'll do it in a sort of it's quite complex. So it's basically one of my ventricles was removed from my heart, and they replumbed the whole thing. My blood is mixed rather than separated, like yours will be deoxygenated and oxygenated. Mine is mixed. Yeah, they reconfigured everything. And, there's nothing that you can see abnormal. There's nothing that impacts me on a daily basis. The only thing is my oxygen sats are really low. My body's adapted to it, which is great. But it means getting stuff like COVID or going like on a glacier skiing just takes me a bit longer to recover or to adapt to, because they're so low. I'm basically altitude training every day.
Right. So you had an operation when you were 4, and was that the only operation, and now it's living with the outcome of that?
Yeah. Basically.
So you're not facing any more kind of medical interventions, but it is obviously the enormity of having to continue to live with that.
Yeah. Basically, it is an enormity, but also I think that I do the classic thing and just like ignore. But that's my coping mechanism.
So this is something else that I find really interesting, your approach with the doctors. And I think this is where, when you and I first talked, I found it fascinating because I think I wasn't too dissimilar in a very different walk of life when I became unwell. And unwell to me was a lot of mental health problems after I had my daughter. And I'd go and see a doctor, and the approach was very much a questionnaire. Are you feeling these things? How often do you think these things? Oh, your score adds up to this, therefore you're depressed. Therefore, let's try you on this medication. And I kind of felt like I went through, and I'm not slamming the NHS because I think they've done a wonderful job in so many other walks of life for me. But the mental health side I found really tough. And I followed the advice and I took the medication, but it didn't help. And it helped in some ways, but I knew at heart deep down that wasn't what was best for me. And I made the decision to not take the medication and to come off all of it quite quickly. And I went back to some basic stuff around breath work, about running again, which was awful after you've had a baby. It was not at all glamorous. But getting out in the winter slowly and surely, that what it did to my confidence and my mood was just so wonderful. And so similar to you, the advice I think that I'd been given wasn't necessarily what I followed. And I started to go on my own journey of understanding or exploring what was best for me. And it sounds like that's something that I think you had in your own way about, and it's really understanding what we need individually to make us healthy as we can be. And it sounds like that's a path you've gone on. Tell me a bit about that then. So you started really young and you said you didn't take the medication, but it feels like you've found a confidence in knowing what is good for you.
Is it confidence? Is it stupidity? I don't know. I don't know. Everyone is so unique. This is what Arvra score. Everyone is, there is no one size that fits all in any dimension of wellness or any walk of life. We are all so different. So yes, you can take advice from people, including doctors who are saints to me, like the paramedics that are my angels. Like, I love them all. NHS is one of the best things ever in this country. We'll never slam them, but they don't have the capacity to look at you as a complete individual. It's not their fault. So just be careful what I say, but every doctor's appointment I went to as a teenager, when I started to understand more, because as a child my parents were there to take it in and, run with it, I would listen to it and then I would almost like put it in a box. I don't think that's a good thing, by the way. Again, I'm not shouting for everyone to do that, but I do think there is a positive in that somewhere. I think you should intake what the doctors intake. They are the experts, and if you're unwell, you should listen to them. But there's an element of the body's capable of things that aren't within medicine or science. It's capable of healing itself from the inside out. I know that sounds really woo-woo, but I have done that.
No.
There's links to positive thinking. There's links to being outside. There's links to movement. There's links to certain foods. One of my favorite books is How Not to Die by Michael Greger. Sounds really morbid. It goes through a list of different foods and how it can prevent and heal disease and illness.
Wow.
So I'm just the biggest advocate. The body is capable of more than you think it is before medical intervention even. So I don't know where I land with that now. I listen, I don't ignore, but I also put it in a box for later and I address it when I need to. Does that make sense? Sorry.
It does. I think that is such a wonderful way to be. And I'm probably the complete opposite to you in that everything I've ever been told, I'm like, okay, yep, that's what I should do. Like you're the professional, I'll do that. And the rules, I'll follow the rules because that's what we're meant to do. And it took me until I got to a really older age to start going, actually, I don't know if that's right for me. And I'm such a people pleaser, right? I'm such a,
Same.
What will everyone think? Oh my gosh, I said this thing. Oh my God, what? And I will stew. I could say something to someone and I will stew over it for days to come and it will keep me awake at night because I worry about the impact that it's had. And I'm trying to get more comfortable. And this is such a hard thing still to think, is that good for me? And do I actually believe that? And I didn't intend to be like that. That was, I'm a good person. So can I stop worrying so much about things that are out of my control? So I think the approach of listening, but also approaching it in a slightly different way and putting it into a box and really just taking time to think on it is a really great one, right?
I also think we just had Dr. Dawn actually on our podcast, Dr. Dawn Harper, who's Embarrassing Bodies, and she's like this national GP, right? And I remember asking her about bedside manner, because one thing that I would always take with a pinch of salt is how they deliver the news to you. Again, not blaming doctors, nurses, surgeons, whatever they are, that they're doing their job wrong. They have so many people to look after. They have so much going on. They can't possibly then also be expected to have perfect bedside manner. But there definitely needs to be some work. That there's been some news delivered to me before and some advice that has been in just the complete wrong way that sends me into an absolute state. And I think if things were positioned in slightly different ways from medical practitioners, then we would have the power to listen, but also make our own decision. Because at the moment, it's delivered in a way that you must do this or else you might die. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember one of the toughest times for me was when Evie was about 3 months. No, she was a few weeks old, and I was breastfeeding, but she wasn't gaining any weight. And I knew that something wasn't quite right. So all of the midwives kept telling me to breastfeed. No one would tell me to bottle feed. And I remember talking to one midwife when I weighed her, and I said, she's not gaining weight. There's something wrong. And she said, yeah, but you've just got to keep going. Like, breast milk is best. You don't take a child off breast milk. And I said to her, she was from the Caribbean, and I said to her, where you have come from and been raised, if a woman was in this situation, what would she do? And she said, well, we don't have formula there, so the child would die. And I remember leaving that, and I was distraught. Like, I think I went walking and I know. I think I got lost for an hour, and a friend found me, and she texted me and said, can you, like, because she saw me distraught, and she said, can you come and, are you okay? Can we talk? And I just sat and cried in a bar with her. And I said, so the option I'm hearing is that either I carry on feeding my child this way and she doesn't gain weight, or she dies. That it was awful. It was really awful. And so your point on kind of bedside manner or what people are saying can be, that was me at a really vulnerable time as well, being told that. It was, and it still haunts me to this day.
I've been told things by people who aren't my cardiologists, other like aspects of women's health or practitioners. I won't go into detail because I don't want to scaremonger anyone. I've been told that I can't do certain things. You will never be able to do this, or your body will do this if you try and do this.
Yeah.
And then I always go back to my cardiologist, and I'm always like, is this true? She's like, no, what on earth? Like, everyone's different. So that should give some people some inspiration to take everything with a pinch of salt, and maybe find some, my cardiologist is my beacon. She's known me, like, I had one as a child and one as an adult, so she's known me since I was 18. It's really important they know you. If you go, this is why NHS GP practices get a really bad rep. I'm lucky enough to pay, because it's worth it for me, I pay for a private GP in London still. I don't live in London, but I now know her, because every new GP I go to, they want to send me to A&E, and it's traumatic because they look at my sats and they're like, you're not well, go to A&E. And I'm like, oh, this is normal. So I would recommend finding, and it's £90 a month for my private GP. So yes, it's an expense and it's maybe not accessible for everyone, and I'm privileged enough to be able to afford it. But at the same time, if you can do that, or ask for the same GP at your NHS surgery, because they don't know you. They're just going to shove something at you that isn't.
This is it. This is what's so challenging, isn't it, in the medical profession now, is you need to build a relationship to really understand what that person's baseline is, so that you know what a deviation from norm looks like.
Also, then you don't scaremonger them, or you terrify them by saying, oh, no, you can't do that, or oh my God, that looks awful, or that kind of language makes people like have panic attacks and major anxiety.
Yeah. So tell me some of the things then with Arvra, what people can access through Arvra, because you've got a huge story there, and wellness is something that's so important to you. What would people that come to Arvra find?
So, one, accessible to everyone. So it's an app, which means most people have a phone, most people can download it. But two, we keep it human. Now, nothing against AI or generative content, but we don't use any of it. They're all real humans and real human content. So it's almost like you're on FaceTime to that expert. We have an expert in pretty much every dimension. So we've got 37 plus of them in movement, nutrition, hormone coaching, financial well-being, CBT, NLP, relationship therapy, you name it. The app will also personalize you a program based on a onboarding form. But then I think the best thing is you can then call one of these experts and they can get to know you and you can have sessions with them. It's a fusion of the accessibility of tech and the human connection and having a real life human at the end of the phone, which is so rare these days. Arvra is all about preventative and proactive, so we don't touch anything clinical. There's a reason for that. It's just a place that I don't really want to be in. I also think the UK gets a bad rep, but I think we do crisis point really well. Not so much mental health, but A&E. I know they're busy and I know people are waiting in corridors at the moment, so I'm not trying to say there isn't a problem. But that service that we get at NHS is one of a kind. Like, the paramedics are so bloody brilliant at crisis point. They're so warm, friendly, calm. They make jokes with you when you think you're dying in the back of an ambulance. So yeah, Arvra's for prevention. It's to try and stop people getting to burnout or mental health crisis or getting injured or needing to spend a lot of money fixing you. Instead, it's trying to help people own their health from every walk of life. It's not just for the elite. It's for absolutely everyone. We've got cancer patients on there. We've got athletes on there. So yeah,
a fantastic resource. And as you said, a human person, a human being at the end of that phone, that app is, it's like gold dust nowadays. So Georgie, one of the things I always ask everyone that comes on this podcast is about their definition of being unstoppable. And I'm really interested in what yours is. How would you define someone and a woman that is unstoppable?
It's a big question. I often use the word resilience, but I use it in a very different way, I think. I think being unstoppable is having the ability to feel things and then get back up again. So one of my favourite quotes, I say it on all the time, is fall down 7, get up 8. Life throws so much shit, don't know if I can swear on it, at us all the time. And we've all lived it, we've all experienced it. I think being unstoppable is using your tools or being able to get back up again, whether it takes you a week or a year to get yourself back up again and to have that growth and that power and that strength within you to come back after a fall, I think is unstoppable. And I think a lot of people will view the word unstoppable as success driven, I think. Maybe, or money driven, or like fierce and strong, whereas I see it as literally, how do you get yourself up again?
And that's the definition that I love. And it's one I've come to really later on in life. I used to think it meant never falling down and always being successful and winning. And now I realise it's feeling all those emotions. It's stumbling and feeling like you have failed, which is a whole other topic of conversation in itself, but still getting back up and still continuing and still finding a way to smile through it eventually, somehow. That's my version of unstoppable. And I love hearing other people's versions as well of that. So we always end with a question that's been left for you from the guests before. And the last person that I spoke to was Alicia Noble. And Alicia was a big believer in Reiki and the power of energy to really transform and help to heal and unblock challenges happening to someone. And her question was all about, where have you found something in life, or what have you found in life that has offered something to you on a daily basis so that you can help to manage that just a little bit better?
I have 2 answers. Let me pick.
Say both of them. I'm interested in both of them then.
Movement is the obvious one. Strength looks different on all of us. I don't mean going to a gym for an hour, by the way. I mean putting on some good music and dancing around the kitchen. It's always been my tool. It's everything. And I think that's very personal to me, so apologies. But yeah. And then the second one is the people in my life. I just wouldn't be here, I don't think. And if I didn't have my family and close friends, and it doesn't need to be a big circle, but even just one person that you feel is there for life is something that I'll never take for granted. And every single day, you know, you've got those people, you've got that hug if you need it. So yeah.
Relationships and connection.
Everything.
I think, you know, don't they say now that loneliness is in older age is almost more dangerous than cigarette smoking? It can cause as many deaths because we're not meant to be alone. We need connection and relationships in life.
Yeah. We're in an epidemic of loneliness. And if those relationships aren't serving you, get rid and find someone that is. Because don't cling on to them just because you think you need a relationship, you need a connection. Like, that's even worse. Go find your tribe.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like we could have a whole other conversation on some of these topics as well. And look, finally, what's your question for the next guest?
My question would be, if there's one thing you could say to your younger self now, what would it be?
Oh, interesting. That's always
What would you say?
Go easy on yourself.
Oh,
I mean, that's without giving it any thought, but I feel like that would be, with what we've talked about, just go easy on yourself. Life is great.
that's lovely.
Yeah. And you, what would you say?
And he's going to cry. I would say you did it.
Oh,
That's what I'd say. Oh, I feel I'm going to
love
cry.
that. I love that. I've done a lot of things on the podcast series so far, but I haven't actually cried. So it's
Sorry.
first bringing a tear to my eye.
We're doing it to each other now.
Do you know what though? I think it says, those two statements say such a lot about that. I think the life that we both lived when we were younger, that we would kind of go back and kind of say those things to ourselves. I think that's beautiful.
Write it down. You did it.
Yeah. You did it.
Yeah.
This is it. We need those. You need to frame it. You need to have that little frame.
Yeah. That will be going on a LinkedIn post of mine today.
Yeah. You did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Georgie, thank you so much. I have loved sharing this with you, and I love talking to you. I always feel so grateful for meeting the women that I am and sharing these stories. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. Great conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.